Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I thought I'd review a Linda McCartney album, which I don't think I've reviewed before. So here goes. It's called Wide Prairie, and this is the single which was released in 1977 called Seaside Woman, with the B-side to Seaside, both of which are included on the Red Rose Speedway archive set. And I think it's a pretty damn good single, very good reggae track, and probably Linda's best track ever. And this is the album I want to focus on today, Wide Prairie, released a few months after Linda passed. Just before I do that, I just want to say I've been discovering a few things on YouTube which I didn't know existed, which is great. Thanks to Terry Wilson for alerting me to some of these things, like the full version of Tight As with the extra guitar solo is on YouTube. Not brilliant quality, but not bad. And there's a demo of Give Me Love before he overlaid the guitar solo, which is pretty decent. And also there's a YouTube channel called The Beatles Interviews, which includes, among other things, a George Harrison interview from May 1970, where he's talking about the realistic possibility of the Beatles continuing, which is kind of contrary to what he's said since, about, we always knew that Abbey Road would be the last album and he didn't want to know. But here he is in May 1970 saying, I think it would be a selfish thing for the Beatles not to continue. But he obviously did stipulate that it would have to be equal time between him and Paul and John. And I think he said 3 tracks each for John, Paul and John, and then 2 tracks for Ringo. So that interview is remarkable because it's free of any bitterness which we encountered later. And then also there's more than 3.5 hours of the Playboy interviews just been made available on YouTube, or maybe, I'm not sure if it was made available before, I've just found it. And it's fascinating because I've been waiting for this audio released for years. I always knew that Andy Peebles' interview was available on audio, but not the Playboy interviews. And it's great to hear David Sheff and John Lennon going through all the tracks. And I was particularly impressed by when he was talking about Birthday. Even though he dismissed the song, he said the most interesting thing about that song was they put the piano through some kind of speaker or synthesizer and made it into a kind of different sound, and he said that was about the most interesting thing about that track. And also there's another great interview from George Harrison during his tour of 74 in Houston, where he's talking very candidly with the interviewer, and they're all available on this channel. It's just called The Beatles Interviews. So I recommend you check that out. And also I've been listening to, I think I've heard it before, but Elton John's version of Snookeroo, just on piano, no drums or bass or anything. And just learnt to play this on the piano, and very nice chords, very nice chords. And also John Lennon's Goodnight Vienna, there's a good version of that on YouTube, with Lennon's vocal pretty clear in the mix. I'm the Greatest, we've obviously heard before. There's a demo of Ding Dong, which I've been asking for years, not brilliant quality. So just a few things, just to remind ourselves that on YouTube there's a lot of stuff which may not have been officially released, which is available for the fans. But anyway, to this album, and okay, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and it opens up with the track Wide Prairie, the title track, which is not one of the best tracks on the album. Linda's sort of singing in this country accent, and it's not my favorite. But then if you get into the album, New Orleans is a good demo from the Venus and Mars sessions with Denny Laine and Joe English. And The White Coated Man is a delightful track from March '88 with Carla Lane. I think it's credited to Paul and Linda and Carla Lane, who does the spoken words, and that's great. Love's Full Glory is an outtake from, I think, what was to turn out to be the Stop and Smell the Roses album from Ringo, recorded at Super Bear Studios in France near Nice in July 1980 with Lawrence Juba and Lloyd Green on guitar duties. And this is a very charming song. I Got Up. It was originally a November '73 recording with Denny Laine and Jimmy McCulloch. So it's almost like a Wings album, a lot of this stuff. And even though the vocal was overlaid in 1998 and is a bit rough, to be honest, but just before she died, March 1998. But it's quite enjoyable. The Light Comes From Within is another track where Linda overlaid her vocal literally about 6 weeks before she died, and she's very angry and impassioned in her vocal, and it's quite nice to listen to, and nice guitar from James McCartney, Paul's son, and Paul. I'm not sure who plays the lead. Maybe they play joint lead. But that's a nice song, although the vocal is a bit strained because it was towards the end of Linda's life. And then there's a delightful version of Mr. Sandman recorded in Jamaica in June '77. It just shows Paul's mastery of the reggae genre, and he should have done more of this. It's just delightful. Seaside Woman, probably her best track ever, as I've said, and found its way onto the the Red Rose Speedway archive set, and got the full Wings line up here, and just a great reggae feel, good bass playing from Paul, good vocals from Paul and Linda in particular, and I think this is a great track. And Oriental Nightfish, which turned up on one of the animated videos. I think it was on the same video as the Rupert and the Frog song 1984, which was the best-selling animated video of that year. And it's a nice track. Paul, Linda and Denny on that. Endless Days is a track from '87, very nice. Poison Ivy, not so good. And then a track called Cow, recorded in April or March 1988, and Paul McCartney's playing this guitar solo, and this, if you ever want to be persuaded to go vegetarian, this is the song you should listen to, because it's very moving, and she's talking about the last few days in the life of a cow before he or she gets slaughtered. Gets slaughtered, and it's very moving, and with spoken words from Carla Lane, very effective. And then B-side to Seaside, which is the B-side of Seaside Woman. This is very London Town-esque as a song, and good electric guitar, and it sounds like Denny on backing vocals, although he's not credited on the liner notes for this album from Linda. But it sounds like Denny to me. Let me know what you think. But very catchy song, less than an A-side, more than a C-side. My little B-side to C-side. Charming lyrics, meaningless of course, but good. Sugar Time is a cover of that song, recorded June '77 at the Air Studios. Very nice. Cook of the House from Wings at the Speed of Sound is somehow on this album because I guess Linda sings lead vocal, but it's actually one of the lesser tracks on this album, and it's nothing to write home about, as we know. And actually I looked at the musician credits for this song, and it doesn't include Jimmy McCulloch, so maybe he sat that one out thinking this is only a Linda song, I don't want to contribute. Anyway, Appaloosa is the last track, and a good guitar solo from Paul, and again a late vocal from Linda, recorded a month or so before she died. So very nice, and I just think this album needs a bit more consideration. This is the back cover, a lovely picture of Paul from, I guess, the late '70s, and nice picture of the wide prairie here. It's on the MPL logo, so not on EMI or anything, although maybe it was controlled by EMI, but it's on the MPL logo, and the lyrics are included, but it's the same lyric sheet as included in the CD, so exactly the same. They didn't bother to sort of size it up for vinyl. They just included the same. It hasn't got the lyrics, but it's got the musician credits, so you can see a lot of these are Wings tracks. And people think of like McGear, the album from Paul's brother, as being a Lost Wings album, and in many ways I suppose it is, but it's never really got to me, that album, with a couple of tracks accepted, like Move It is a great track, but some of the songs are annoying for me. But this album is worth investigating, if only because you've got Wings basically playing a load of songs, and some of these songs actually could have made their way onto Wings albums if Paul had been so minded to do that. Because Cook of the House really, to me, is not Linda's best song by far. I think Seaside Woman, as we all know, the Red Rose Speedway album, when it was going to be a double, was going to include Seaside Woman, and B-side to Seaside is delightful. I would say, what else is delightful? The track Cow, just check that out. It's just brilliant. I mean, maybe not brilliant, that's not the right word, but it's good. And Sugar Time is just great. And The White Coated Man. I just think Linda deserves a bit more credit. And obviously she was a key part of the Wings vocal harmonies. And here she is doing her own album, albeit posthumously after she passed. But I like some of Yoko's music, and I like this album from Linda. I think they were both talented for different reasons, and that's why I am reviewing this album today. Not because it's brilliant, but because you can hear Paul's musicianship on a lot of the tracks. Bass, drums, guitar, you name it. He's all over them. And other albums which are worth checking out, which are kind of obscure Wings side projects, would be the Thrillington album, the all-instrumental version of Ram, released in '77, recorded in '72, with no less than Richard Hewson doing the string arrangements, who did the string arrangement for Long and Winding Road, which Paul had so many problems with. So that's interesting. And also the album from Denny Lane from '77, Holly Days, is also worth checking out, because that's Paul and Denny, just the two of them really, up in Scotland recording Buddy Holly songs, and sounds great to me. And I couldn't find my copy of that to show you, but I have it somewhere. And so anyway, these Wings side projects are worth checking out, and so that's why I reviewed this Linda album. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.